Hello everyone, it's Ethys here. Yeah, I know, I miss you too. And after witnessing the reveal of that figurative bombshell that is the Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers trailer at the North American Fan Festival, I knew I had to find the time to get my thoughts down and have a chat with you lovelies. So, here's a trailer analysis, desiccation and mandication for you, focusing particularly on the questions of time and place, identity, and the prevalence of what seems to be iconography of an overwhelmingly Amdapori persuasion. If you're new to the channel, it's going to be pretty dense, so I would encourage you to sit down and hold on. Let's start with the confrontation between Xenos and the Warrior of Light, since this scene seems to be occurring prior to the advent of 5.0. Specifically, the wider shots appear to relate to the concept art we saw in the latest live letter for the 4.5 MSQ dungeon, the Gimlet Dark. A trench running through a decimated battlefield scattered with the carnage of Alliance and Garland combatants. Within the context of the trailer, this seems to be an echo-triggered memory of our protagonist and a defining moment for the precipitous trail to calamity we find ourselves subsequently stumbling.
How many years have come and gone since that day?
The voice appears in every language to belong to Arbit, the Warrior of Darkness, so salient in the latter patches of Heavensward.
Caesar better.
I know some people have noticed the similarities in English and Japanese to Alphino's voice, perhaps an older Alphino, but when you cross-reference with the French and German, it is, in my opinion, much closer to Arbit. But just as Arbit was supposed to represent an extra-dimensional reflection of our protagonist with the same physical characteristics as the Warrior of Light depicted in all cinematics to date, it is not unreasonable to suppose that we and Arbit would sound the same as well, at least in the cinematics. It is also seemingly the same voice responsible for the calling we and the Scions experienced in 4.4.
Ahead looms a calamity.
And that which has put several of the latter indefinitely out of commission. So has this voice been Arbit calling to us from across the shards, or our own voice from a potential future warning us to avoid the same mistakes, or something completely different? Were the unfortunate side effects of this calling on our comrades incidental or deliberate? And what is that day and this moment that the voice refers to? Is it the final defeat of Xenos and subsequently the Garleans on the battlefield of Gimlet? But how could it have been years since this event? Should we expect a significant narrative time skip? Or is that day in question something else in our past, like the moment we first took up the mantle of the Warrior of Light? And do we stand alone against the storm? Or are we in fact the storm against which Xenos stood alone? Will his defeat not break a precarious balance between light and dark and see us become the unwitting arbiters of a far greater chaos? Let's take a step back. The place in which the main action of the trailer takes place seems to be one of the new zones that was introduced in the NA FanFest keynote, Erang. This place is certainly not a part of our home continent of Aldenart, and yet here, and apparently elsewhere, we are seeing monsters most familiarly associated with the ancient Amdapori of central Eorzea. You will all have noticed already that this is almost identical to the Kuribu we fought in Amdapor City hard mode, and this new acquaintance of Thancred resembles the winged lion guardian of the same city. But Erang is almost certainly not a part of Amdapor, and wherever Thancred and his mysterious young charge find themselves does not appear to be either. Side note, Yoshida did explicitly state in the keynote that there is a big clue to one of the next jobs in the trailer, so if this isn't Thancred as a gunblade tank, then I have no idea where this clue could be. Wait. Oh my god. Some might assume this place to be a part of the Amdapor Keep or city at a first glance, but the architecture and material are quite distinct from either. The little we see of this location appears more Beladian, Ul'dan, or perhaps even Skallic. It's unclear, at least to me, but I think the most important thing here is that these creatures, which look so much like Amdapori golems, are appearing in places far, far away from Amdapor. So why? The simplest answer might be that the crux of the trailer is to demonstrate the transformation of the Warrior of Light into the Warrior of Darkness, and that combating these angelic creatures visually represents this concept most effectively, most symbolically. There are precedents for expansion trailers delivering more of a thematic showcase than a literal representation of the narrative. You might recall the attack on Ishgard in the Heavensward trailer by 1,000 clones of Reichsvelga, so perhaps the actual narrative significance of the Kurubu is overstated here. Or perhaps the war spreading across Hydaelyn has disturbed the slumbering guardians charged with the defense of Amdapor and other ancient civilizations, and they now freely roam the land. Perhaps the Eorzean Alliance has deliberately awoken these monsters to aid in the campaign against Garlemald and quickly lost control. Perhaps the Alliance has done something even more stupid and foolish. Let's entertain an insane speculation for a moment. We know that many icons of modern Eorzea are derived from more ancient counterparts. The symbol for Azema once belonged to the ancient Mericidian sun god Sephiroth. Many scholars believe that Rauga and Ramu are representations of the same deity. And you might notice that although this looks exactly like a Kurubu, many modern depictions of Halone share a good deal of similarity with Amdapor's Kurubu statues as well. Let's reach even further. Arbut, the Warrior of Light from the first shard, was compelled to adopt the mantle of the Warrior of Darkness due to his world being on the threshold of a flood of light. These circumstances were caused by the overwhelming defeat there of darkness, chaos, and the Ascians by Arbut and his allies. So if we need to become the Warrior of Darkness here, it seems reasonable that similar conditions have been suddenly met. Perhaps with the Scions mostly out of commission, Elidibus has machinated to compel Eorzeans to take the desperate nuclear option against Garlemald, finally summoning the 12 as icons, whom proceed to decimate friend and foe alike and shatter the already thin ethereal flow of the source. It would then fall to the Warrior of Light alone to turn against our allies and their gods, becoming a hunter and antagonist of the 12 in order to restore balance. Let's be real, this is no ordinary Kurubu. Either we've been crippled by the calling or by some other malignant force that has turned all of our weapons into matchsticks, or else this creature is something far more powerful than an Amdapori golem, something like Halone or some other primal. Or maybe the gremlin has just cast the misery vulnerability up debuff on us. But that's not the only explanation for the power of this Kurubu, or for the presence of her or the guardian lion seemingly so far abroad. It's probably no coincidence that the Encyclopedia Eorzea Volume 2, released on the very same day as the Shadowbringers trailer, describes the golemic Amdapori Kurubu as being derivative of transcendent beings from another plane, and specifically modeled thus in order to better contend with Voidsent. This other plane is a world beside our own, and most likely another dimension or shard entirely. Perhaps the first shard was not the first at all to be threatened by a flood of light. Perhaps the Amdapori had knowledge of an equal and antithetical type of Voidsent, a light Voidsent, perfectly equipped to mitigate the dark forces of Mark, and attempted to reproduce them artificially. We already have knowledge of a precedent that the Amdapori gargoyles were deliberately modeled after Voidsent, such as the Vidoriga, so perhaps then an impending flood of light has caused these creatures to spawn, or has begun warping the denizens of Hydaelyn like the Flood of Darkness warped the peoples of the 13th Shard. Loremaster Koji Fox has told us before that a world which has succumbed to a flood of light would be completely empty and without life of any kind. But that isn't to say that approaching and up to that point there wouldn't be a period of creeping cataclysm and marauding light Voidsent abominations. Or perhaps it's not a flood of light per se, but an astrally charged calamity. Or perhaps this isn't our world at all, and Amirang is a place on the first shard to which we have been called in order to combat the flood of light that the word of the mother, aka Minfilia, has tried and failed to prevent. I don't know. I don't think it's likely, but I want this to be Halone so badly. I've been wanting to break from our handlers and fight the 12 ever since Gaius pointed out to us that they're almost definitely primals back in 2.0. But maybe that's just me. The remaining great mystery of the trailer, I think, is the identity of the Cloaked Child accompanying Thancred, and when we cross-reference it with the key artwork, his or her importance cannot be overstated. I've heard a few interesting theories going around. The most popular seems to be that it's Minfilia, forced to take a new body in order to return to the source after abandoning her original one when traveling to the first shard. Now that her soul is effectively fused with that of Hydaelyn, perhaps this is the only way to keep a weakened Hydaelyn alive after another calamity. It seems far-fetched to me, but not unsound. This could also be a lost heir to the Garlean throne, a kind of Anastasia and an integral part of a mission to reform Garlemald and maintain order following the excision of Ascian control. If we are in fact on the first shard here, it could be this world's Untitled, an echo-blessed child representing the last hope to redeem a doomed world. I think it's most likely to be some character that we haven't met yet, but will be introduced to us at some point in 4.5. But I'll say what I say about every new character we meet with a vague or hidden identity. It is definitely, unequivocally, Gaius. Anyway, I hope that you guys will let me know what you think below, whether you concur with anything I've said or have any crazy theories of your own. It's super early days for Shadowbringers news still, and we have so little information, so the speculation is going to be pretty wild, but I think that just makes it all the more fun. It's great to get back to some YouTube content, as much of a mess as the platform is these days, and there will be more videos here from time to time leading up to 5.0, but if you miss me, or if this is your first time catching the channel, you should definitely drop by on Twitch sometime, where I live stream full-time hours at least 5 days a week, and you can find a link to that in the description below. I hope you're all as excited for the road to Shadowbringers as I am, so thanks again for watching, and until next time, brush your teeth, and take care.